I got a tour of the Google headquarters at Tottenham Court Road by Daniel Arajo. I think he's a brand manager over there. He runs a lot of like the big data stuff. And he was walking me around, and people were leaving at 6 o'clock. And he showed me the cafe, and I was like, "People are leaving early." And he's like, "Yeah, yeah. They encourage you to work the hours. If you're staying up late at night 3 days in a row, he's like, you're probably not working efficiently." So he's like, all these right answers you think you would hear on an interview or something. And then I was just like, after 45 minutes, I was like, "Daniel, do you watch your back? Are you always worried about keeping your job, because Google's like a dream job, you know?" And I always wonder, is it a place where you feel like, man, I really need to innovate this month, or I really need to stay on top of my game, to stay working for the best company?
Have you heard of the term OKRs?
No.
So it's actually something I recommend to a lot of startups to look into. It's objective and key results. So every Googler has OKRs, and you set these goals, and they're quarterly, and they're measurable, and they're public as well. Other people know what your goals are, and to get promoted, it's really hard to get promoted because you have to exceed expectations several quarters in a row, and the goals are aggressive to begin with. They're not really easily achievable. So although you have everything, you have the food, you have massages in a Google office. We don't have it at campus.
Right.
I gave my perks long time ago.
There's no massage room in campus? Jeez.
This is the maximum I got.
You're like the outpost in the Wild West frontier.
I call it Cyberberia.
Cyberberia.
So, although you have all of that, people work very hard, and Google tends to take overqualified people for the role. Not in a bad way. It's like because the company is likely to grow, you're going to be expected to do the next step of your job, right? So like if they take you like too green, you're not going to be ready to do the next step. So people work really, really hard. It's not that you're watching your back in the sense that you don't want to lose your job, but because you have these like clear goals, and because they're transparent, and because you need to exceed these goals in order to get promoted, it's almost like a self-policing system. And I actually highly recommend watching the video by my colleague at Google Ventures, Rick Clow, on OKRs, because if you are able to create this culture in your startup, at the end of the day, what you want is self-motivated people. That it's like a self-driving car. This is what I tell my 20%ers. So a great 20% project, it's like a self-driving car. Like we set the direction together, and you know how to get there. But in order to do that, there's a lot of insights packed into it, right? Like a lot of tech, a lot of decisions, a lot of like different systems working with each other. And this is what you want to create in your company.
And you guys are developing a self-driving car as well.
Yeah, they're quite
advertising?
amazing. They're quite amazing, yeah. And Google X is doing, that's one of the projects that Google X is doing. Google X is Google's innovation or R&D arm in California. And they created Google Glass, which I have a pair here. I can give you a demo later.
Yeah.
They have self-driving cars, which looked like science fiction a few years ago, and now people are saying like, the founders actually feel like the longer we wait, with introducing self-driving cars, the more lives are unnecessarily lost on stupid accidents, and there's huge use cases for industry and agriculture, etc. And there's Project Iris and Project Loon. I don't know if you heard of them. Yeah. Project Iris is a contact lens with a chip that measures the level of glucose in your tears for diabetics. So instead of hitting yourself pricking with a needle, you can always know if your level of sugar is out of the regular norm, and you get an alert when it happens. And Project Loon is providing, there's 5 billion people in the world that are not connected to the internet in remote areas, countries that don't have the infrastructure. So these are balloons that fly 30 kilometers over the earth and provide Wi-Fi connectivity to people.
I just heard Facebook's doing something similar. I'm not sure if it's something with satellites trying to connect sort of those 5 billion people, right?
That's the next huge opportunity for the world, not just for Google or Facebook. It's like more than half the planet is not connected. Like what's going to happen when we're all connected? What can you do when everyone's connected?
Double the entrepreneurs potentially.
I don't think it's going to be enough, double the entrepreneurs, right? Because right now entrepreneurs are maybe 10% of the population, but you're going to have like, more than 50% more the users. So,
which is why I think the diversified staff is so important, because, you grab guys from China and India and, these areas that are massively populated where there's a lot still to get
Totally,
online.
totally. And sometimes we think that we're the most advanced in everything, and especially if you live in the West Coast, you know, you think like there's no innovation happening outside of Silicon Valley.
Right.
You feel like there's something in the water, and that's the only place where you can innovate sometimes. No offense, Silicon Valley folks. But actually, there's places in Africa that are more advanced in mobile payments than we are here in London, and in education, you know, like, and in communication, manufacturing, and fashion. And I think eventually every industry is going to get disrupted by tech and software. It's just a matter of time. And Mark Andreessen, founder of Netscape and Ning, and now he runs a very successful VC fund that just raised $1.5 billion yesterday. He says, he has a famous article that says software is eating the world, or software will eat the world, which means that every industry as you know it today is going to get disrupted by the internet. And you know, to an extent, even what you're doing with Crew, right? Like you want to change how things are done. You maybe no longer have to buy your coffee in the supermarket. You can do a subscription and we'll send it to you. Everything, fashion, education, you know, manufacturing, whatever.